Hello, my name is Maureen Van Dusen and I'm a member of the planning team at CARES of New York, Inc. Today my colleague Erin and I will provide a brief overview of this year's Continuum of Care Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO. This webinar was developed specifically for COC membership, board members, and community stakeholders. CARES developed this webinar because we believe it is our responsibility as collaborative applicant to provide clear and concise information on the COC NOFO to the full community to ensure the COC process is community-centered and transparent. Today's presentation provides a summary of the FY22 COC NOFO in a brief, succinct format. Specifically, the presentation will discuss HUD's policy and program priorities, 2022 funding opportunities and deadlines, the application process, and the COC application criteria.
Because the NOFO details a variety of important topics, CARES has produced a series of webinars to cover specific topics in more detail. Our webinar series includes presentations on today's topic, NOFO summary, HUD priorities in the consolidated application, new project opportunities, DV bonus opportunities, opportunities for renewing projects, eSNAP refreshers, setting up a renewal, and setting up a new project. Please be sure to view these webinars in the NOFO section of the CARES website. Please also be sure to visit the NOFO page on the CARES website regularly for important application information and due dates.
You may be wondering how HUD's policy priorities and point values on the consolidated application are relevant to your local project. COC members submit projects to the COC rank and review process, and those projects are included on the COC's priority listing and given a point value toward the total community application. These points, combined with the points scored by the overall community on the consolidated application, are what determine the competitiveness of your COC nationally, and what determines whether projects ranked at Tier 2 are at risk of being defunded, and if new project applications have a chance of being funded by HUD. Thus, it's important to understand HUD's policy priorities and how your local project applications tie into the bigger picture of the COC consolidated application, as COCs get scored as a whole through this process.
Before detailing HUD's policies and priorities, it's important to have a clear understanding of the Continuum of Care program and its goals. The Continuum of Care, or the COC program, is a funding stream out of HUD designed to promote a community-wide commitment to the goal of ending homelessness. The program provides funding to nonprofits, states, and local governments to quickly rehouse homeless households while minimizing trauma and dislocation caused by homelessness. The program is designed to promote access to and effective utilization of mainstream programs by homeless households in order to optimize self-sufficiency. On the local level, the COC is the body of stakeholders who work collaboratively to implement the COC program and to effectively and efficiently solve homelessness.
To better understand how HUD developed the COC NOFO criteria and application process, the NOFO documents 9 policy priorities, as you can see on your screen. We will now walk through and describe each policy priority. Note that there are 2 policy priorities indicated this year that are new to the COC application. The first policy priority is to end homelessness for all persons. HUD encourages COCs to end homelessness by identifying, engaging, and effectively serving all persons experiencing homelessness. Specifically, COCs should identify, engage, and effectively serve all persons experiencing homelessness. Measure their performance based on local data that consider the challenges faced by all subpopulations experiencing homelessness in the geographic area. For example, veterans, youth, families, those experiencing chronic homelessness, people with disabilities, and people living with HIV/AIDS. Partner with housing, healthcare, and supportive services providers to expand housing options such as permanent supportive housing, housing subsidies, and rapid rehousing. Use local data to determine the characteristics of individuals and families with the highest needs and longest experiences of homelessness to develop housing and supportive services tailored to their needs.
HUD's next policy priority is to utilize a Housing First approach. Housing First prioritizes rapid replacement and stabilization in permanent housing and does not have a service participation requirement or precondition. COC program-funded projects should help individuals and families move quickly into permanent housing. And the COC should measure and help projects reduce the length of time people experience homelessness. Additionally, COCs should engage landlords and property owners to identify an inventory of housing available for rapid rehousing and permanent supported housing participants, remove barriers to entry, and adopt client-centered service methods. HUD encourages COCs to assess how well housing first approaches are implemented in their communities. The third policy priority is to reduce unsheltered homelessness. In recent years, the number of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness has risen significantly, including a rising number of encampments in many communities across the country. People living unsheltered have extremely high rates of physical and mental illness and substance abuse disorders. COCs should identify permanent housing options for people who are unsheltered.
The fourth policy priority is to improve system performance. HUD encourages COCs to use system performance measures, such as average length of time homeless episodes, rates of return to homelessness, and rates of exit to permanent housing destinations, to determine how effectively they are serving people experiencing homelessness. Additionally, COCs should use their coordinated entry process to promote participant choice, coordinate homeless assistance and mainstream housing, ensure people experiencing homelessness receive assistance quickly, and make homelessness assistance open, inclusive, and transparent. COCs should review all projects eligible for renewal in fiscal year 2022 to determine their effectiveness in serving people experiencing homelessness, including cost effectiveness. COCs should also look for opportunities to implement continuous quality improvement and other processes improvement strategies. HUD recognizes the effects of COVID-19 on COC performance and data quality, and compared to the previous COC NOFOs, the FY21 application reduced the points available for rating a COC's system performance. However, HUD has significantly increased the points available for system performance rating factors in the FY 2022 NOFO from 23 points to 59. The fifth policy priority is partnering with housing, health, and service agencies. HUD encourages COCs to maximize the use of mainstream and other community-based resources when serving persons experiencing homelessness. Using cost, performance, and outcome data, COCs should improve how all available resources are utilized in order to work closely with public and private healthcare organizations and assist program participants to obtain medical insurance to address healthcare needs. COCs should partner closely with public housing authorities and state and local housing organizations to utilize coordinated entry, develop housing units, and provide housing subsidies to people experiencing homelessness. COCs and PHAs should especially work together to implement targeted programs such as emergency housing vouchers, HUD VASH, mainstream vouchers, family unification program vouchers, and other housing voucher programs targeted to people experiencing homelessness. COCs should partner with local workforce development centers to improve employment opportunities. And lastly, COCs should work with tribal organizations to ensure that tribal members can access COC-funded assistance when a COC's geographic area borders a tribal area. This year, similar to last year, HUD will award points to COCs that apply for bonus projects and have a written commitment from healthcare and/or housing resources to support the project. These commitments have very specific requirements, thus CARES will be providing a template commitment letter for bonus applicants to use when soliciting written commitments. The sixth policy priority is taking action to increase racial equity. In nearly every community, Black, Indigenous, and other people of color are substantially overrepresented in the homeless population. HUD is emphasizing system and program changes to address racial equity within COCs. COCs should review local policies, procedures, and processes to determine where and how to address racial disparities affecting individuals and families experiencing homelessness, including evaluating projects through rank and review on the demographics of persons served compared to the homelessness population as a whole. This policy priority will be included as a point-bearing question in the consolidated application this year. The seventh policy priority is improving assistance to LGBTQ+ individuals. Discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation manifests differently for different individuals and often overlaps with other forms of prohibited discrimination. COCs should address the needs of the LGBTQ+, transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary individuals and families in their planning processes. Additionally, when considering which projects to select in their local competition to be included in their application to HUD, COCs should ensure privacy, respect, safety, and access regardless of gender identity or sexual orientation in projects. COCs should also consider partnering with organizations with expertise in serving LGBTQ+ populations. This is a new policy priority for HUD and will be point-bearing in this year's consolidated application. The eighth policy priority refers to including persons with lived experience in planning and funding decision-making. HUD is encouraging COCs to include in the local planning process people who are currently experiencing or have formerly experienced homelessness. People with lived experience should determine how local policies may need to be revised and updated to improve the effectiveness of homelessness assistance programs, including participating in planning and oversight activities and developing local competition processes. COC leaders and stakeholders should also prioritize hiring people who have experienced homelessness in areas where their expertise is needed. For example, peer outreach and support. The ninth and final policy priority is also new this year, increasing affordable housing supply. The lack of affordable housing is the main driver of homelessness. COCs play a critical role in educating local leaders and stakeholders about the importance of increasing the supply of affordable housing and the specific consequences of the continued lack of affordable housing. HUD encourages COCs to communicate with jurisdiction leaders, including for the development of consolidated plans, about the harmful effects of lack of affordable housing and how they should engage local leaders about steps such as zoning and land use reform that would increase the supply of affordable housing. This FY 2022 COC NOFA awards points to COCs that take steps to engage local leaders about increasing affordable housing supply. In fiscal year 2022, HUD has made $2.79 billion available through the COC program funding application process, which is an increase from $2.6 billion last year. In order to access this funding, the NOFA lays out a variety of important deadlines. The full consolidated COC application is due to HUD on September 30th, 2022. There will be opportunities to submit new and DV bonus projects as well as to transition and/or consolidate projects through this NOFA. Please refer to the CARES webinar on new project opportunities and the webinar on opportunities for renewing projects for more information. 3 additional HUD required deadlines revolve around the local competition. Project applications must be submitted in eSNAPs 30 days prior to the application deadline. Project applicants must be notified of their inclusion or exclusion in the COC application at least 15 days prior to the application deadline. Finally, in order to have transparency with the full COC, all parts of the application must be made available at least 2 days prior to submission. CARES works hard with each community to establish more stringent deadlines in order to ensure a more transparent process and a better overall score. Please review your COC's timeline on the NOFA page of the CARES website and ensure, if you are submitting a project application, you do so on or before the required timeline. Please note that there are local deadlines for both the rank and review process and submission of project applications into eSNAPs. CARES is setting the deadline for renewal applications for August 19th, and the new applications vary by community but must be in eSNAPs by August 24th.
I would now like to take a couple of minutes to walk through the application process. The COC registration is the beginning of the application process and typically occurs towards the beginning of the calendar year. During the registration period, the collaborative applicant, CARES, indicates to HUD the COC's intention to apply for COC funding. CARES reviews prior year's information for the COC and submits any changes. This is also the time a COC can request to apply for Unified Funding Agency status, or UFA. The second part of the application process is submitting the COC Grant Inventory Worksheet, or GIW. The GIW is used annually to record all grants within a COC's geographic area that are eligible for renewal funding for an upcoming COC program competition. CARES works with COC-funded agencies to review and confirm their budgets prior to submitting each GIW. The third part of the application process is conducting and submitting the Housing Inventory Chart and the point-in-time counts. The Housing Inventory Chart, or HIC, is a document that captures all of the housing dedicated to homeless persons in the COC area. The point-in-time, or PIT, is a count of the number of homeless persons in the COC area on the night in January. Both of these activities are required by HUD and are point-bearing in the application. The next part of the application process is submitting the system performance measures. System performance measures are calculated using Homeless Management Information System data and paints a picture of the state of homelessness in the community. Submitting system performance measures is required by HUD and is point-bearing on the application. The next step in the application is project review and ranking. Every community conducts this process differently, but generally begins work in February. The rank and review process is developed by the local COC to prioritize COC-funded projects for continued funding as required by HUD. Running at the same time is the release of the NOFA and the COC Consolidated Application. The COC Consolidated Application is all within HUD's electronic system called eSnaps. The collaborative applicant is responsible for submitting the application. The COC application is one part of the Consolidated Application. It contains information about the COC planning body, governance, overall performance, and the strategic planning process. HUD scores the COC application to determine the order of funding by COC nationwide. The priority listing is the second piece of the consolidated application and contains project applications completed by grantees and then placed in ranking order using the local COC rank and review process. Additionally, the priority listing includes the 2991 certification of consistency with consolidated plan. CARES is required to create a summarized list of all projects and present this to the local municipality for review and approval.
Next, I would like to take a moment to review project tiering. Tiering is a result of the rank and review process and is detailed in the NOFO. This NOFO describes the COC's requirement to tier projects into two categories based on the COC's annual renewal demand, or ARD. A community's ARD is equal to the sum of the annual renewal amounts of all projects within the continuum that are eligible to apply for renewal in that FY competition. The ARD is taken before any adjustments are made for rental assistance, leasing, or operating lines based on fair market rent. Tier 1 equals 95% of the COC's annual renewal demand. Tier 2 equals the difference between Tier 1 and the total ARD plus bonus funding. Bonus funding is available to apply for in the amount of 5% of the COC final pro rata need. DV bonus funding is available to apply for in the amount of 15% of the preliminary pro rata need and should not be less than $50,000 per project. Planning projects, which are 3% of ARD, and UFA projects, which are also 3% of ARD, are not tiered. There must be a local and transparent application process.
This list documents funding for each of the COCs that CARES works with and lists the ARD, Tier 1, Tier 2, bonus, and DV bonus amounts available. This information is on the CARES website, on the NOFO page, under the Public Notice section within the tabs for each COC.
The COC application has a total of 200 points with an additional 25 bonus points. As noted in the current slide, there are 6 criteria sections. In this presentation, we will only provide a brief overview of what HUD is reviewing within each of the criteria. You can find detailed information on each criteria, including specific point breakdowns, on pages 62 through 86 of the NOFO. HUD will award up to 83 points to COCs that demonstrate coordination with other systems of care that serve homeless individuals and families, including sources of funding other than the COC program, an inclusive and outcome-oriented community process, including an organization structure and decision-making process for developing and implementing a COC strategy that is inclusive of representatives from both the private and public sectors, has a fair and impartial project review and selection process, and has created, maintained, and built upon a community-wide inventory of housing for homeless individuals and families. Points will be awarded to COCs that ensure they have an inclusive membership of a variety of stakeholders within the geographic area, coordinate with federal, state, local, private, and other organizations, ensure families are not separated, collaborate with organizations related to children and youth, address the needs of victims of domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and sexual assault, address the needs of the LGBTQ+ community members, collaborate with PHAs, have a housing first approach, and more. HUD will award up to 30 points to COCs that demonstrate the existence of a single, coordinated, inclusive, and outcome-oriented community process for the solicitation, objective review, ranking, and selection of project applications that includes reviewing and a process by which renewal projects are reviewed for performance and compliance with 24 CFR Part 578. Points will be awarded to COCs who evaluate and competitively rank projects based on how they improve system performance. HUD is awarding 59 points for system performance measures. Under this section, COCs must report their system performance measures and demonstrate a COC system-wide performance measurement process related to reducing homelessness. HUD recognized the effects of COVID-19 on COC performance and data quality and reduced the points available for rating factors related to system performance in the FY 2021 COC NOFA. This FY 2022 COC NOFA significantly increases the available points for system performance rating factors. HUD will award up to 9 points to COCs that demonstrate the existence of a functioning HMIS and that victim service providers use comparable databases that facilitate the collection of information on homelessness using residential and other homeless services and stores that data in an electronic format. The point-in-time count. HUD will award up to 5 points to COCs that collect, use, and submit data from the 2022 point-in-time count. Last year, coordination with housing and healthcare was worth 10 bonus points. This year, HUD has made these points part of the regular application scoring, and this section is worth 14 points. HUD will award up to 14 points to COCs that submit new permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing project applications, demonstrating coordination with housing providers and healthcare organizations. As noted earlier, there are a total of 25 bonus points for COC merger. HUD will award up to a possible 25 bonus points to COCs that merged in the period between FY 2021 and FY 2022 COC program registration deadlines based on the following structure. The minimum number of bonus points a merged COC may receive is 5, with the maximum number of points available at 25. There's the COC NOFA summary webinar in a nutshell. As a reminder, additional webinars are posted on our website and cover new project opportunities for bonus and reallocation, DV bonus opportunities, opportunities for renewing projects, consolidation and transition grants, eSNAPS refresher for setting up a renewal project, and an eSNAPS refresher for setting up a new project.
Thank you for participating in our webinar series, and please do not hesitate to contact anyone on the CARES planning team with any questions or concerns. Thank you.